Here's your wrestling news for September 13th, 2022. And we're kicking off today with Monday Night Raw, which saw yet another successful title defense by Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair. After issuing an open challenge last week, Belair's offer was answered by SmackDown Sonya Deville, with the fight spilling out of the ring during the match. In the end, it was a KOD by Belair which earned her the win, but after the Deville match, the EST was confronted by Bayley. The Raw Women's Champion was attacked by Damage Control until Alexa Bliss and Asuka made the save, and it's clear that the issues between these women are far from over. This week's Raw was certainly a physical show, with two superstars in particular being left worse for wear. During a segment with Kevin Owens, the prizefighter spoke about having to work to earn opportunities while Theory has been handed them, which culminated in a brawl between the two. This brawl left Theory with a busted nose, and some have suggested that it could have been legitimately broken during the fight. If Theory had it bad, Edge had it much worse at the end of the show as he headlined the show against Dominic Mysterio. Raw went off the air with the members of the Judgment Day attacking Edge's leg with a steel chair, seemingly writing the rated R superstar off TV for the time being. With Edge gone and Dominic now with the Judgment Day, Rey Mysterio is all alone in his fight against the group, so we'll have to see who the much bigger Judgment Day targets next. Johnny Gargano was also in action last night, and he had an impressive outing in his first match in 9 months. The last time Gargano wrestled, it was in December 2021 as part of NXT, and he had an excellent match with Chad Gable on this week's show. Eventually, Gargano hit Chad Gable with his one final beat finishing move to win, and while the former NXT champion avoided a post-match attack by Otis, he wasn't so lucky when ambushed by Austin Theory. Theory and Gargano have been feuding ever since Johnny returned to WWE, so expect a match between the two at some point down the line. More from Raw now, as this week's show was another 3-hour spectacular featuring the top names from the Red brand, but fans didn't get to see all of it. Last night's Raw saw several technical difficulties, with the screen going black multiple times and WWE fans being asked to stand by while the company fixed the situation. It's unknown what caused TV screens to go black during Raw this week, but it certainly upped fan interest in the product. Some fans even speculated that perhaps this was deliberate and part of a storyline for a character, maybe even a tease for the return of Bray Wyatt. That seems unlikely, though we can't count anything out, and hopefully WWE won't have to deal with any more of these technical issues from now on. Last week it was reported how the Young Bucks had sent out feelers to WWE to gauge just how much interest the promotion has in them. The Bucks reportedly wanted a friend of theirs who is a WWE superstar to tell higher-ups that they are open to offers, but they're not the only ones who are weighing up their options. When Ringside News asked around, they learned that Kenny Omega has also sent out his own feelers, and did so during his lengthy hiatus due to injury. There's no word on how much interest WWE has in Omega or the Bucks, but we just have to imagine that the company wouldn't pass up an opportunity to take all three of AEW's biggest draws. Right now, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are all serving out suspensions, and between what happened at All Out and how well Cody Rhodes has done in WWE, the trio may be in store for some interesting contract negotiations when the time is right. It's been reported that Omega's involvement in the fight after All Out was minimal, as after getting CM Punk's dog Larry to safety, his attempts to pull Punk off Matt Jackson earned him a bite by Ace Steel. Nevertheless, Omega is suspended, and that could mean quite the change to his contract going forward. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reports that Omega's current deal is set to expire in February 2023, but between his lengthy injury and his ongoing suspension, AEW could add several months to his deal to make up for that time. As for the Young Bucks, Meltzer confirmed that their deals don't end until January 2024, but they too could see added months depending on how long their suspension lasts. All we know for now is that the three are suspended, and with reports of all three sending feelers to WWE, things could get very interesting for the Elite and their contracts. When Vince McMahon retired from WWE in July, it was the biggest change to the company in decades, possibly ever, and the company is now being run by Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan. The two now operate as co-CEOs of WWE, and things are looking up without Vince in charge. According to PW Insider, the new management team has energized the WWE locker room and production team, with reports that the staff at WWE HQ have a better energy and better work-life balance. Under the Vince McMahon regime, there was a sentiment of keep your head down to avoid his wrath, while talent hoping to climb the corporate ladder would have to work long into the night to impress the then chairman. Under Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H, employees can do their job without the level of stress that was the norm during Vince's tenure. One WWE staffer even said that approaching Vince to discuss something was like running into the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. You didn't want to call attention to yourself. While McMahon's departure marked the end of an era, everyone seems happier with him out of the picture, from those in the offices to the talent in the ring. We've got some concerning news from Eva Marie next, as the former superstar was recently hospitalized after suffering an anaphylactic shock. Ryan Satin of the Out of Character podcast reported how Eva was rushed to the emergency room on Labor Day after having a bad allergic reaction to some fire ants. Eva herself took the story to TikTok, where she shared images of some of the welts and scarring caused by what happened. Marie never quite won fans over with her in-ring ability, but she's now facing a new battle, and we wish the former superstar and Total Divas star a very speedy recovery. When WWE signed Gable Steveson last year, it was a huge score for the company, as there had been reports of Steveson going to AEW or even trying his hand in the UFC. So far, Steveson hasn't wrestled for WWE, but did get physical at WrestleMania 38, hitting a suplex on Chad Gable. While speaking on the Sunday night's main event TSN radio show, Dave Meltzer discussed the Olympian and the big plans the company once had for Steveson. It was that he was going to be the new Brock Lesnar, and they were going to send coaches to Minnesota and get a place in Minneapolis, and during the wrestling season, they were going to have him also train as a pro wrestler, which probably wasn't a good idea to do both at the same time. He hasn't debuted, and they wanted to debut him at WrestleMania, and it didn't happen. He was supposed to be fast-tracked to main events by now. Like, come right out of college and win the NCAAs, which he did, and then go right to WWE top level, and that didn't happen. It was recently reported that WWE has cooled off on Steveson, who isn't showing the improvement that they were hoping to see from him now, a year after signing. Given how big his name already is, it's unlikely WWE will be parting ways with Gable Steveson anytime soon, but the career of the Olympic gold medalist hasn't gone quite as WWE had hoped so far. On last week's AEW Dynamite, MJF made his first appearance on the show in months, teasing that he'd turned face before revealing that he's the same old so-and-so fans love to hate. Like he's done in the past, MJF discussed leaving for WWE, name-dropping co-CEO Nick Khan, Cody Rhodes, and other WWE references, but his most recent comments haven't won some people over. On the Keepin' It 100 podcast, Disco Inferno said that AEW had wasted their opportunity with the promo, saying, "Bro, AEW had a chance to try and turn this into something realistic, and it's just all wrestling, phony. It's not. It's all an angle. There's no way you can sell any of this as a shoot anymore, so all the meat on that bone is gone. Like, it's just a work, it's just another AEW angle, and they let MJF talk about this stuff. They say, oh look, it's a shoot, but we know it's not, because it's not going anywhere, right?" Disco's reasoning is that by MJF continuing to talk about leaving, it's clear that this is a work, which makes fans less interested as they know all his threats of joining WWE are entirely hollow. We do know that MJF's contract with AEW is set to expire in January 2024, but the more he talks about leaving, and the more Tony Khan allows him to talk about leaving, the more likely he is to stay with the company. One name who's doing very well under Tony Khan is Claudio Castagnoli, the reigning ROH World Champion who joined earlier this year after a mixed run in WWE. In 2014, seemingly on the cusp of a main event push, the then Cesaro was put with Paul Heyman, but despite the talent of both men, the pairing just didn't work. Appearing on the latest episode of the Kurt Angle podcast, Claudio recalled the pairing with Heyman, saying, "I'm not exactly sure, but I think Paul said once that they just needed somebody to go out and talk about Brock Lesnar breaking the streak, and they needed a reason for Paul to go out there. I was there with him for him to go out there and talk about me, and then talk about Brock. I think that was that if my memory serves me right there." Sure enough, most of Heyman's promos with Cesaro saw the veteran manager speak about Brock Lesnar, with the Swiss wrestler coming across as a complete afterthought. For years, Vince McMahon's belief was that Cesaro's promo skills were holding him back, but as we saw, being partnered with one of the greatest talkers of all time didn't work out either. New reports regarding the third-party investigation into the backstage fight between CM Punk and the Elite after AEW All Out have come to the fore. Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio had earlier reported that the involved stars would remain suspended until the investigation ends. As part of the investigation, everybody who was present in the locker room at the time of the altercation was to be interviewed. In an update from PW Insider, the investigation is in progress at the moment. Video interviews with Punk, Ace Steel, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks have also been scheduled. Interviews will also reportedly take place with Michael Nakazawa, Christopher Daniels, Brandon Cutler, and Pat Buck. Apart from the aforementioned names, the independent firm in charge of this investigation will be talking to a number of neutral parties who are believed to have seen everything as it happened. MJF and AEW Chief Legal Officer Mega Parek are the only two reported neutral names so far. What do you think of this whole deal? Do you think this is still a work or a shoot? Sound off in the comments below. And we're ending with Raw, as a huge title match has been set for next week's show. During this week's show, Seth Rollins said it had been too long since he's held gold in WWE, and during a backstage segment, challenged Bobby Lashley for the United States title. This challenge was accepted, and the match has been confirmed for next week's program. The last time Rollins held gold was in 2019, and this one and only US title reign came back in 2015, but the Visionary is hoping to break this lengthy drought on next week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.